There are two types of people in this world.
He just said he likes you and he hopes you'll get him a drum.
That is not funny.
And then the other type.
That one I don't understand. I had no idea what he said just now.
There's nothing wrong with us all having different senses of humour, but to put it simply, if you're offended by a fart joke, then I want absolutely nothing to do with you. It's so refreshing to see such self-assured and unapologetically shameless writing throughout the entirety of High on Life, in a world where every single form of media that's released into society has writers treading on eggshells, ensuring there's every form of token stereotype character included in their story, and the most common phrase that's most likely used in the writer's room is, "Can we say that?" Justin Roiland is one half of the comedy writing duo behind the show Rick and Morty, and the phrase "can we say that" just isn't in his vocabulary, and this same emancipated attitude has been carried over into the writing of High on Life. Earth has been invaded by the G3 alien drug cartel who seek to use the native human population as drugs, and we're quickly pushed into the role of a silent protagonist alien bounty hunter whose voice would be redundant anyway even if he could talk, thanks to the abundance of highly volatile and vulgar vocals of the living weapons called Gatlians that you'll encounter and be utilising on your venture. One aspect of the writing that I love is the player is often the butt of the joke, so if you're quick to laugh loudly at the expense of others but turn apoplectic when the joke's at your expense, then brace yourself. The player gets bollocked on the regular, and knowing there are games like FIFA 23 out there that have the option to turn off critical match commentary as a way to not offend that soft arses of society that we have today, it definitely needed mentioning that this game is the polar opposite of that. You're constantly having the piss taken out of you, intentionally provoked and time wasted, whether that's filling out paperwork with an arcade scoring system or simply being asked to wait for a guy to finish his shit who never actually finishes.
And then when I'm done shitting, I'll wake you up, okay? Sound good? Thank you.
The alien life gives an even bigger excuse for every character being off the walls mental. Your sister is the only character that attempts to provide any logic or sensibility to the plotline, and even her credibility is more than questionable as she starts the game off offering you a line of coke as one of the weirdest ways to pick your avatar that I've ever seen. Then the rest of the characters that you meet throughout just send the story spiralling off with a mind of its own, and it's an absolute treat to witness the incredible lunacy that's on show. The small details that are appreciated in other less comedically focused games like NPCs conversing or doing their own thing are all here in High on Life too, but as expected there's a ruthlessly clear focus to shove comedy down your throat. The amount of time that I spent not playing the game and just standing around watching relentless TV commercials, NPC conversations, or even this absolute bellend giving my house a bloody parking ticket. The writing itself is often self-depreciating, sarcastically mocking the game's own mechanics, which if you're not already enjoying the comedy aspects on offer, then you're likely not going to want to hear the game itself openly admitting that the gameplay isn't exactly groundbreaking stuff. I've seen a lot of criticism leveled towards the gameplay, and yeah, it might not be revolutionary stuff, but there's a lot more on offer than simply pointing and shooting. High on Life's gameplay has a little influence from Borderlands and a touch of Doom sprinkled in too if you're looking for comparisons. You clear an area of bad guys in one area and then move on to the next area. I do think the Borderlands franchise has started to feel a little dated, and that too leans heavily on the comedic writing angle with fairly basic point and shoot mechanics, but Borderlands has a ridiculous amounts of weaponry that all fire in different ways, but mechanically there's no real overarching growth to what your character can do from the start of the game compared to what he can do at the end of the game. High on Life shooting mechanics are very basic, worse than Borderlands in truth, but I wish the game made more use of each weapon's versatility. Some of your weapons open up an almost Metroidvania aspect to the level design, with certain weapons granting you access to previously inaccessible areas by manipulating the environment. I just felt like there wasn't enough of this in High on Life. Your pistol Kenny can fire glob shots that flip these platforms to open up new areas, as well as solving these pipeline puzzles. The psychotic Australian knife, creatively named Knifey, functions as a grappling hook and can deflect certain attacks. Gus the shotgun, voiced by JB Smoove, can fire these discs that ping-pong off enemies in combat, but can also be planted into specific wall types, creating a new platform to reach. Then there's Sweezy, an automatic big submachine gun that can fill enemies with crystals, which if followed up with a down the sight shot can explode on impact. But Sweezy can also create this time bubble that slows down everything inside its range. It's handy in combat, but even handier to slow down moving platforms or ventilation fans to gain access to new areas. Creature is hilariously voiced by Tim Robinson, but sadly my favourite character out of all the weapons I found to be the least useful, shitting out tiny blue babies that charge at enemies to add additional damage, and they can hypnotise the enemies as well, and can be even fired through vents to flick switches on the other side of an inaccessible area. There's one more weapon though, Lesduit, that I'm not going to spoil though, as this is the beast weapon for the final mission. And these new mechanics aren't just confined to weapons either. After the cool retro themed game within a game intro mocks the lack of a double jump, you're eventually entrusted with a jetpack that can help during combat, and this adds another level of verticality to the exploration. Eventually you'll be tying all of these mechanics together, and this makes for way more than just a simple point and shoot first person shooter. I just wish there was more focus on the alternative uses of these weapons. The gunplay is a little spongy, and the boss battles in particular, they're really forgettable, but solving certain puzzles and manipulating the environment was really fun, and I felt like there was more space to scrap a few areas that are simply combat focused areas and replace a few of these areas and make use of the other puzzle solving and platforming mechanics that are available. There's quite a few chests dotted around the semi-open world that provide a small incentive to explore, mostly providing the in-game currency to head back to the various merchants in the game, offering different upgrades to make use of as well. Game Pass subscribers who enjoy this type of comedy, this is an absolute must and could easily be finished over a weekend as well, but because of that, asking for around $55 or £50 for such a short game with minimal replayability, this is way too overpriced in my opinion. Since day one, a patch has been released on Xbox consoles to fix the shoddy performance thankfully, but it's still not perfect. The world is energized and vibrant, and I love the art style, but there's the odd blotchy texture as well that weakens the overall visuals, and the demands of these visuals are really high with very limited settings to customize the experience. Make no mistake though, High on Life hides absolutely nothing. The comedy is barefaced, overt and hilarious, but ultimately the comedy and the writing is the main selling points of the game, but there's a few enjoyable mechanics underneath the mediocre gunplay that are unfortunately underutilized, and with that in mind, hopefully that can provide a good enough reason for the developers Squanch Games to discuss a potential sequel maybe with Xbox that makes better use of these innovative and hilarious weapons. So if you've managed to play High on Life already, I am genuinely curious what you've made of it. Do the barrage of jokes that are littered throughout the game land for you, or is it a complete swing and a miss? And if so, I'd love to know how you found the gameplay instead. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.